Hello! Today we're going to use the existence of consciousness to argue for a theistic worldview rather than a naturalistic one. To get there, though, we have a long road ahead of us with quite a few points that need to be addressed along the way. The first is that mental things, like consciousness, are not identical to physical objects like brains. To be more precise about what I mean by mental things, I mean anything that contributes to your first-person experience of reality, sensations, thoughts, desires, qualia, and so forth. While I find it to be self-evident that these mental things are not purely physical, here is a compelling thought experiment developed by Thomas Nagel to drive the point home. If the mental reality of conscious experience is identical or reducible to the physical reality of brains, then what it's like to be a bat can be reduced to mere physical facts about the brain of a bat. So, if you get a complete description of the physical properties of a bat's brain, then you should also have been given a complete description of what it's like to be a bat. But would that actually happen? No, the physical properties on their own are not enough to describe what it would be like to be a bat. So, the mental reality of being a bat is something more than mere physical properties. Now, in theory, you could agree with me so far without believing in immaterial souls or anything like that. Maybe the fundamental stuff in our universe has both physical properties and mental properties, and this explains how one is not reducible to the other. If a particular particle is part of a brain feeling pain, then maybe the pain is a property of the stuff making up the neuron. Fine, you do you. All I'm saying is that the pain that the brain feels is not identical to any physical properties of the brain. So, if you grant me that, then we need to ask ourselves about how they interact. The first note is that physical things cause mental things to happen. Me stubbing my toe causes the mental sensation of pain, as well as the belief that I'm in pain, and the desire to no longer be in pain. This basically happens all the time. Even the mental sensation of watching this video is being caused by photons hitting your eye and signals being sent to your brain. So, mental things are definitely caused by physical things. Is the opposite true? Do mental things cause physical things to happen? Epiphenomenalism is the view that no. Physical things cause other physical things to happen, and physical things cause mental things to happen, and maybe mental things cause mental things, but mental things cannot cause physical things to happen. This view may sound plausible at first, but this view cannot be held rationally. Allow me to illustrate. Say I have a mental belief that there is a tree outside. Given epiphenomenalism, this is caused by a certain physical state that my brain is in. Now, how can this belief be rationally held? Well, here's one way. I saw a tree outside. That is to say, my eyes, which are usually reliable, detected photons bouncing off a tree outside. That rationally justifies my belief that there is a tree outside. Now, in what way is this justifying my belief? Well, it's that my belief that a tree exists was caused by the existence of a tree. If my belief that there was a tree was not even indirectly caused by there being a tree, then it would not be a rationally maintained belief, because then it could not be based on any kind of evidence. Bringing this back to epiphenomenalism, it can only be the case that epiphenomenalism is true if, first, mental things exist, and secondly, these mental things cannot cause things to happen in the physical world. But this has a huge problem. Epiphenomenalism makes it explicitly clear that the existence of mental things in no way, not even indirectly, cause my brain's physical state, which leads me to believing that there are mental things. So, my belief in mental things, given epiphenomenalism, cannot be based on evidence, and is therefore irrational. I'll put this in maybe a more intuitive way. If there were some device that destroyed all mental things, turning all humans into non-conscious meat robots, then, given epiphenomenalism, physical reality should remain unchanged. Brains and bodies would still function in the exact same way. But that would mean that even if consciousness no longer existed, there would still be meat robot philosophers discussing this non-existent consciousness stuff, for no reason. People would still talk about epiphenomenalism and what it's like to be a bat and all these thought experiments to discover the nature of something which isn't there. How bizarre. So the only rationally defensible stance about mental things is that if they exist, that they cause physical things to happen. Now, a skeptic at this point may say, all very interesting, but I could just fit this all into my naturalistic worldview. It seems that I could fully agree that mental things cause physical things with no problems whatsoever. But can you? Dun dun dun! Allow me to share an argument from Richard Swinburne. Let's consider a bunch of inelastic particles bouncing around and an equation to describe their collision. We would expect it to look something like this, a nice, elegant solution. We don't need to make a statement about what happens for every specific particles of specific masses, like when particle 1 is 10 grams and particle 2 is 7 grams, then this happens, but when particle 1 is 9 grams and particle 2 is 5 grams, then something completely different happens. No, we can make neat general statements about the universe. Now, given naturalism, describing nature is in fact describing ultimate reality. There is nothing beyond it. So we have no reason to expect absolutely anything but these kinds of nice generalized equations. The unfortunate fact for the naturalists is that mental things don't work in a way which can even in principle be generalized. Take an innocuous example. I get thirsty, so I decide to drink some water sitting next to me, and then I drink the water. Since mental things are causing things to happen, then in this case alone, brain events triggered by a high saline content in my blood, along with the sensation of thirst, the belief that I am thirsty, and the desire to not be thirsty, cause events in my brain, along with the intention to drink water, via beliefs that drinking water makes me less thirsty, which in turn cause the bodily movement of me drinking water. This is a super complicated pseudo-equation, and its complexity can't be reduced in any way. What's worse is that you cannot even generalize it. An extraordinary chunk of mental things have no values attached, like physical things have. You could perform functions on the values found in physical quantities, but you cannot perform functions on mental experiences, which are each extraordinarily different from one another. Furthermore, the connections between beliefs alone are ridiculously complicated. The belief that all men are mortal is in tension with the belief that Socrates is immortal. The belief that this is a square leads to the belief that this has 4 sides, but the belief that this has 4 sides does not lead to the belief that this is a square. Furthermore, the beliefs 2 equals 1 plus 1, 3 equals 2 plus 1, and 4 equals 3 plus 1 can only mean what they're usually thought to mean if they lead to the belief that 2 plus 2 equals 4. So, physical reality follows nice general laws, but the mental aspect inexplicably follows complicated laws with no generalizable pattern. This should make a naturalist very upset. However, theism makes perfect sense of all this. God created persons and created the universe as a public forum in which they can interact. This universe would serve this function best if it behaved in a regular and orderly manner, in ways discoverable by the persons inhabiting it. On the other hand, God would give the persons a complex consciousness, so that they could have a rich and diverse experience of reality. Theism is not surprised in the least, therefore, by the impossibility to generalize the functioning of mental things. Therefore, we have evidence that theism is superior to naturalism. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoy my content.